For almost a year, a foreign espionage team lived quietly inside some of the most secure government and corporate networks on Earth. No alarms tripped, no alerts fired. To understand how they got in, we have to look at a US-based company called SolarWinds. They make network monitoring software called Orion. If a Fortune 500 company or a government agency runs servers, routers, or cloud workloads, Orion is the tool watching all of it. Because it monitors everything, Orion requires high privileges. It sits in the middle of sensitive environments and talks to almost every system. Instead of hacking 10,000 targets one by one, attackers realized they could compromise the one vendor everyone trusted. In late 2019, they gained access to SolarWinds' internal network and targeted the build pipeline. The build pipeline is the software factory that compiles source code into final updates and digitally signs them so customer computers accept them as safe. By poisoning Rat Factory, the attackers packaged their code inside a legitimate routine update. They turned a trusted IT monitoring tool into a global spy weapon, and the victims pulled the attackers inside their own walls. Between roughly March and June of 2020, up to 18,000 customers installed that poisoned update. From their perspective, the installation was successful, and their system logs looked entirely normal. The malicious code inserted into the update became known as SUNBURST. To a system administrator, it looked perfectly innocuous. It was the same file type, used the same installer, and carried the exact same valid digital signature as the rest of the Orion software. This timeline chart shows CPU and network usage over several days immediately following the installation. As you can see, the malware waited completely silently. By delaying execution for up to 2 weeks, it easily bypassed automated security sandboxes. A sandbox is an isolated test environment that runs new software to look for immediate malicious behavior before letting it onto the main network. Since SUNBURST did nothing, the sandboxes cleared it. Then, days later, it wakes up. Once awake, it carefully scanned its new home. It checked the local domain name, active usernames, and the running background processes to map out exactly where it had landed. It actively looked for specific security and forensic tools using a built-in block list. If it spotted them, it would permanently shut itself down to avoid leaving any trace. This discipline shows the attackers weren't looking for quick money or a ransomware payout. SUNBURST was a highly engineered sleeper agent designed to blend in, learn the environment, and wait for the perfect moment to act. When a piece of malware needs instructions, it has to talk to its operators through what is called command and control traffic, or C2. C2 is the network communication channel used by attackers to send commands to compromised systems and extract data. But reaching out across the open internet is exactly how most malware gets caught. To solve this, SUNBURST disguised its traffic to mimic legitimate SolarWinds domains. It packaged its encrypted commands directly inside standard web protocols, making its communication look exactly like Orion's own routine diagnostic telemetry. With a secure foothold on the central Orion server, the attackers could now move sideways through the network. They harvested administrative credentials and impersonated legitimate users, allowing them to pivot to email servers, domain controllers, and cloud resources while appearing as valid traffic. Out of the nearly 18,000 customers who installed the update, the attackers only actively exploited a tiny fraction. They ignored the vast majority of victims and focused their time deeply infiltrating high-value targets, reading the internal emails of senior government officials, and copying proprietary source code. By perfectly mimicking the internal language of a trusted application and wearing the company's digital uniform, the operators orchestrated a global intelligence collection campaign that went entirely unnoticed for 9 months. The silence finally broke in December 2020. A major cybersecurity company noticed unusual activity in its own highly secure environment. They discovered that their proprietary Red Team tools had been stolen. Red Team tools are specialized software used by security professionals to simulate cyber attacks and test client defenses. During their investigation, forensic teams traced the intrusion backward through their network. The trail led directly to a compromised SolarWinds Orion update, exposing the entire espionage operation to the world. The discovery triggered immense geopolitical tension and congressional hearings. Compromised organizations faced years of monitoring and the incredibly costly process of physically rebuilding networks, reissuing digital certificates, and resetting administrative keys. Traditional perimeter defenses failed here because checking if a file is legitimately signed only works if the signing authority is secure. When the build system itself is controlled by the enemy, a valid signature simply guarantees the delivery of the malware. The lesson from SolarWinds is that blind trust is an attack surface. Defenders now operate on the principle of zero trust. Zero trust is a security model that assumes threats exist both inside and outside the network, requiring continuous verification of every user and device. Even software from a verified vendor must have its behavior strictly monitored, because relying on a signature is no longer enough.